This is part two of our new faces and new places.
All
We're
right.
doing wide receivers and tight ends. These are guys that were either traded or signed in the open market during the offseason as free agents.
Mhm.
All right, Frankie, we're getting right into wide receivers here, and we're going to go in order of ADP. So this is the highest of ADPs. And this is your boy. I have a feeling, man, is
All,
this a
all in.
preview of
Oh.
a potential champion for you, maybe? I know you love taking risks on your champions. We're talking
John,
about Calvin Ridley, wide receiver of the Jacksonville
yeah.
Jaguars. All
I
right, break it
literally,
down for us, man.
I
Talk us
literally
into
can't
him.
stop moving. I can't stop moving because I'm so excited to talk about this guy. I'm like I'm foaming at the mouth here. Okay, like yes, this guy is absolutely a guy I'm targeting on everything. He actually is up there. For contention to be one of my champions. It's a big role. It's a big thing. They need to earn that. But for me, John, yeah, love him. Love him, love him, love him. ADP 43, receiver 18 right now. He's a guy that could absolutely, we could be talking about him being a first round pick in fantasy football next year in a 12, 14 man league, back half of the round. That is how good, that is how high his ceiling is. Now, that's also to say his floor is very low. His floor is very low. And for the reason being, because if something happens from his mental state, right, we've seen that he has had problems with that, like to where, right, he needs to be separated and spend some time away from the team. We've seen that, right? So that's really risky. We've also seen him not play for what feels like a little over a year, which it has been. So for taking all that into consideration, his floor could be low, but I am all here for the high side of him. I think you can get him in round 4 or 5. And John, I think it's an absolute steal, man.
When he played last, I know this it's been 2 years,
Two
but
years.
when he played last, he was the wide receiver five.
It's
He
crazy.
was the wide receiver five. And
Hmm.
he would have come in as a first or second round pick in
Yep.
fantasy drafts had he played that next year. So yeah, man. I mean, I think it's one of the scariest picks to make. I love
Definitely.
it. And based on what we all are expecting Trevor Lawrence to level up this year, they've surrounded him with more weapons. He's got a true wide receiver one now with Calvin Ridley and a great supporting cast around him.
Excellent.
They can take the roof off. They can, get you inside and out and a little dink and dunks with ETN and with
Ingram.
and Christian Kirk. So it's a very dangerous offense right now, and Calvin Ridley's in an unbelievable spot.
Hmm.
All signs are pointing that he's been great in camp, that he's just doing things that other guys can't do. He's got physical abilities as a receiver. With his route running, with his contested catches, he's an end zone monster.
Huge.
He's really got it all. So if he's got his shit together, it seems like he's got a good connection with Trevor Lawrence. I do love it, and
I
I
love it.
know we just talked about it in the last episode. It's one of your favorite stacks.
Easily because of
Yeah.
the value too. You're not having to go up and get. We mentioned Lamar and Mark Andrews. We mentioned Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. This is a
Yeah.
cheaper stack that I
It's a
love.
fourth and fifth round
Yep,
stack, which is much safer because you've already got three studs. So you feel a
exactly.
lot better about doing that. Yeah. All right, cool. I love it, man. I think the sky's the limit for Calvin Ridley. He's going to be in a lot of my DFS lineups as well. I think he's going to have some of those games that are just absolutely atomic. All right, big one just happened here a little while ago. Fresh face. New face and new place. We've got DeAndre
Mm.
Hopkins, D Hop with the Tennessee Titans. All right, roll it out for me, man. Does D Hop still have it? He's been a perennial top five receiver in the league. Had some injury risks, and that was on a team with injury all around them. With Kyler Murray and some of the other players there. But um, is he going to Tennessee to die, or do you think he's going to bring back some value?
John, I'm going to go on the opposite end of what a lot of people think. I think he's going to bring back some value. I really do. I think, and the reason being is because, guys, last year he had 64 receptions, 717 yards, 3 touchdowns. What that averages out to when he played, he averaged 16.7 fantasy points a game. Okay. So I think Tannehill is absolutely going to be able to support him, right? We've seen that previously with AJ Brown before AJ Brown left. So for me, I am high on this. Let me rephrase that. For me, I like D Hop still. and I will draft him still in the 5th or 6th round. If I am being asked to draft him any earlier, the answer is going to be no, because I think that you can find other gems that are in a better situation. Again, Tennessee is not super great. Tannehill is not super great. Malik and Wills and Will Levis are not super great options if something were to happen to Tannehill. And outside of this, I actually think this might help Treylon Burks a bit more, because now Treylon Burks isn't going to be asked to be a true number one. He has time to develop under this guy. I think this will also help Derrick Henry a bit more. But for D-Hop itself, it's tough. I still, and I'm saying I will still draft him in that 5th or 6th round if I'm on the back end of the 5th. But I would way temper expectations in terms of what are we really expecting from a amount of receptions and from the amount of yardage per game.
Yeah, I pretty much feel the same way about D-Hop.
Mhm.
Obviously a ridiculously talented receiver who can bring value and probably give you a pretty safe
Yeah.
floor. The reason I do like him is exactly what you're saying. It's not him, it's not his situation, it's not his quarterback. It's the value of him. It's where
Yes.
he's going. So if I can get him in the 5th, 6th round, I do like that because
Yep.
that's kind of a running back dead zone anyway. And at that point, I'm looking at filling my flex spot, or I'm looking at, a 3rd, 4th receiver. And I love D-Hop in that situation. I really don't want to roll him out as a wide receiver 2 if I can
No.
help it.
Yeah, totally agree. Good
As a
call out.
flex, I love it
Mhm.
because I do think he has the talent. I do think he's a shifty, wily vet. He's going to get his. But at the same time, the ceiling's definitely capped, I think, in my
Yeah.
mind with D-Hop. Okay, let's get to your boy. This guy's he's fighting to be one of your champions here
Yeah,
too,
he
Frankie. This is gonna
totally
be a
is.
fun battle between Calvin Ridley and DJ Moore as your
Prove
champion
themselves,
this year.
you know?
Yeah, DJ Moore left Carolina, thank God. My
Thank
Jesus,
the Lord.
fuck, yeah. And now he is with Chicago Bears. He is with Justin Fields. We just played a clip earlier. His first catch with the team is a 60-yard touchdown, all done on his legs. It was a quick screen and gone. Talk about DJ Moore.
Yeah, I love him. I love it. I like, because I can't talk more highly of this guy. He's played in such a shit team with Carolina for years, with a carousel of quarterbacks, with not a very good team, and it has been brutal for him. And he has still performed very well. He is the diamond in the rough, guys. I'm telling you. And now you pair him on a team that has good running backs, good offensive line, a great up and coming quarterback, in my personal opinion, and a very good supporting cast. This is also the best supporting cast he's ever played with for other receivers, right? He has Darnell Mooney, he has Claypool, he has Tyler Scott, right? He has Cole Kmet. There's these other guys that can also take some of that burden or some of that double coverage off of him more times than not. And teams are going to have to respect Justin Fields' legs. So he also opens up the makeshift downfield plays to where when he's scrambling, or when Justin Fields is scrambling, you see DJ Moore start taking off down the field. We're going to see a lot of those plays. Think about Russell Wilson, years ago with Doug Baldwin. I think that that's a very good comparison to what we could see with DJ Moore in that of Justin Fields. So for me, man, knowing that he's ADP 54, average draft position 54, he's receiver 22 right now, and he averaged last year 11.7 points per game in PPR. John, I think this is gold. You can get him in that 5th or back into 4th, early 5th round right now. I love DJ Moore.
Yeah, I mean, DJ Moore's he's finished like every year that he's played as wide receiver, 24, 25, 22, 23. They're putting him right there. You're buying him at that price. That's his floor in my
Yep,
mind. And that's where he is right now. And everything, all the entire situation he's in is so much better. And we just saw the connection he's got with Justin Fields. So
totally.
I see him as one of the best values in the draft.
Mhm.
I think you're drafting him at his floor rather than drafting him at his absolute ceiling. But I think he very well could end the season as a running or a wide receiver 1, the top
Yep.
12 guy. There's no doubt in my mind. I love the situation he's in. I love where his head's at, and I love what I've seen so far. Okay, Frankie, let's get to our 4th guy here, Brandon Cooks. Little tumultuous year last year with the Houston Texans
Yeah.
with Brandon Cooks. Finally got out. I think this guy is really under everyone's radar. I don't think a lot of people are really thinking or talking about Brandon Cooks right now. He's now with the Dallas Cowboys. He's going to be opposite CeeDee Lamb. You've also got Michael Gallup there.
Mhm.
What are you thinking about Brandon Cooks this year?
Guys, if you can get Brandon Cooks as your flex, or if you can get him as your receiver four, gold. That's gold mine right there. That is trade bait. That is depth. That is so much there. And the reason being is because, to your point, he had a shit year last year in Houston with a awful team, terrible team, couldn't be worse team. He still had 700 yards. He still had 3 touchdowns, 57 yards receiving, or 57 receptions, excuse me. And he still averaged 11.2 points a game in PPR. So even in a terrible year, he was still receiver three worthy. So for me, going to a team that absolutely passes a lot, to where Dak is going to need somebody opposite of CeeDee Lamb, to where everything coming out of camp, John, is saying where he's actually beating out Michael Gallup for the number two. I think that if Brandon Cooks can solidify himself as the number two receiver on that offense, I think that there's a lot of great value here. ADP being 97, he's receiver 41. You can get him super late, guys, and just be happy that you have a nice depth piece on a high flying offense. That's where my mind goes with this, Sean.
I think he's going to get a lot of snaps too, because CeeDee
Yeah.
Lamb is going to, towards the end of last season, and I think what they're going to do this year, CeeDee Lamb plays mostly in the slot.
Hmm.
So I think you're going to see Brandon Cooks split out
Let's hide.
much more often.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right, I like that, man. Is this a guy that you're feeling good about in your
At
flex?
the,
You're saying, I mean,
yeah,
he's
totally.
ADP is what, round
97.
eight, nine. Yeah,
Yep.
okay, okay. All right, that's a good value. You're not paying too much for him, and I think it's a guy that's worth taking a chance on. Really. All right, let's get to this guy. I know we're both not on this hype train right here, but Odell Beckham Jr. Went from sitting on the couch to now playing with the Baltimore Ravens and,
Mhm.
and Jamar or Lamar Jackson. All right, Frankie. Odell Beckham Jr. Are you on or off? What's going on?
So I'm not on the hype train with him. Like be
Yeah.
crystal clear, but that also doesn't necessarily mean that I hate his value. Like we got to be able to delineate, right? And so for
Mhm.
me, looking at ADP 107, right? Super late, guys. Like 107, you're looking, round 10, right? Round 9, round 11, around that area to be able to draft this guy. Receiver 45, if he's sitting there and you've already drafted, right, 2 stable running backs, let's say 3 receivers that you have, I'm not opposed to saying, okay, you know what? I'll take a flyer on OBJ as a fourth or fifth guy on my receiver perspective. And then if something does pan out, awesome. Then I have something to trade with here. So for me, it's a value thing. Now, there's another guy that we'll talk about. I'll just lump him in. Like the next guy, John, is Elijah Moore, right underneath him at ADP 109. So for me, when I'm looking at Elijah Moore compared to OBJ, for me personally, I am leaning Elijah Moore. And it's not because I'm a ride and die Browns guy. It's strictly because I think Elijah Moore is in a better situation with Deshaun Watson. He's not expected to be a number one. He has Amari Cooper there. You have a better running attack. You have a better offensive line. So all of that plays into consideration when I'm looking, because John, this is what you're going to have to look at. In this
Mhm.
specific round, are you taking OBJ or are you taking Elijah Moore? And for
It,
me,
it
in this
it's
situation, it's
not even
Moore.
close.
Yeah.
It's not even close for me. It's Elijah Moore. And really, in this stage in the draft, when I'm looking round 10 plus, your team is established. You've got your
Yeah.
starters. You've got even backups. You've probably got, four running backs at this point, probably 4 or 5 receivers at this point. This isn't a guy I'm looking to draft and say, you know what, I need some safety.
Mhm.
I need a guy who's done something in the past. No, man, I'm taking youth all day long. Those picks that I'm drafting, 10 through 15 or whatever the rounds are in your draft, I'm going for youth. These guys that are right next to it, OBJ, he'll flash. He'll have some good
Yeah.
games. He'll be a guy you can plug and play, no question about it. He might be inconsistent. I think he has lost a step for sure. Injury concerns, no question. But I'm taking Elijah Moore. I'm
Yeah.
taking Zay Flowers over OBJ. I want youth, and I want something that's going to give me something, pop. Be the next Christian Watson for me.
Yeah.
Be the next Chris
Amon Ra.
Olave for me, Amon Rob. Be that guy. That's what I'm looking for, and that's why OBJ is not even close to on my board at all.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right, let's get move on here. Elijah Moore, you talked about him. Yeah, I like Elijah Moore, especially in a PPR league. Elijah
Yeah.
Moore is going to be playing in the flex most of the time, or in the slot most of the time. Again, though, this is all about Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
How does Deshaun Watson play? All news from camp, everything that I've seen and heard so far is that Elijah Moore is happy. He's in a good situation, has a good connection with
Mhm.
Deshaun Watson. If that continues, I think he's got PPR value for your flex even. All right, Juju Smith-Schuster now becoming a bit of a journeyman here.
Yeah.
Now signed, leaves the Chiefs and now signs with the New England Patriots. What do you think about Juju in New England here, Frank?
It's interesting. I'm very interested, John. And I say that because Juju was very quiet last year. And what I mean by quiet, quietly productive. 78 receptions, 933 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Guys, he averaged 11.5 points a game in PPR. Juju did. Now
Yeah.
he's going to a completely different situation, run first team. Devontae Parker on the opposite end, still have Kendrick Bourne. They still have two tight ends that they're going to be throwing the ball to often. And it's Mac Jones. The question is, do you believe in Mac Jones? We're going from Patrick Mahomes to Mac Jones. We're going from Ben Roethlisberger to Mac Jones. That's a huge fall off from what we've seen Juju play
Is
with.
is Mac Jones good? Is he
I
good?
well here I'll answer that in an interesting way. After the rookie season, I would have said hell yes.
Yeah.
After college, I would have said hell yes. After last year, no. And
Mhm.
so I don't know. And they, they revamped what they're doing. They're looking at things a bit differently. They're changing the
They got rid of
approach.
Matt Patricia calling the play. That was
Exactly. Got
a
rid of Matt
terrible
Patricia.
experiment. They were awful. Thank
But
God.
here's what's interesting about Mac Jones, and I know we're ranting here for a second, but Bailey Zappi's also right behind him. And there's something special about this Zappy kid, man. I mean, he was NCAA
That
record holder
name
in
is
most
so
yards.
dumb.
It's
Hi, my name is Bailey Zappi. It's so, ugh, Jesus.
but to your point, man, Mac Jones has a lot of pressure on him. Let me put it like that. And
Yeah.
so can Juju help Mac Jones is the question. And I think so. I don't know how much Mac Jones can actually support multiple receivers that aren't necessarily any of them are receiver ones, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah, and Juju's value has always been in the red zone.
Yeah.
He's always been a touchdown guy, playing out of the slot and just a big slot receiver in the back of the end zone, much like a Cooper Cup. With Patrick Mahomes, that works out great. But again, you can't predict touchdowns, and you can't predict touchdowns in New England either.
Right.
They're not going to get down there and throw Juju the ball. They're going to throw it to a running back out of the backfield, or they're going to run the ball 3 times on the fucking goal line. I mean, that's just what they do. So yeah, I think he's got a decent floor. I don't see a ceiling at all.
No.
I don't. I think his ceiling is super, super low. But it's a guy that you can take a chance. Where's he going, Frank? It's pretty safe to be able to take him.
Oh God, yeah. He's ADP 119, average draft
Yeah,
positions 119, guys. So I
yeah,
mean, we're
exactly.
thinking 10th, 11th, 12th round.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you can go wrong at that point for him. All right, let's move on to a couple of guys here. These guys aren't going to be, we're going to breeze through some of these guys because they're not going to be super relevant. But you do need to know where they are because these guys will be talked about. You can pick them up as either flyers at the end of your draft, or these are going to be waiver wire guys. These are going to be the guys that'll
Mhm.
score in week one, and you're going to go, oh shit, I got to get Alan Lazard, which we'll get right into. Alan Lazard leaving Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers, going with Aaron Rodgers to the New York Jets. I think it was really Rodgers saying, hey, help a brother out. He's my
Totally.
buddy. I've got a connection. We can bring him in. He can help Garrett Wilson. I think really that's the main takeaway there. Without an injury to Garrett Wilson, I don't see a ton of value for Alan Lazard for fantasy, but it is good to know he is there
Yep.
and somebody to keep an eye on. Adam Thielen leaving Minnesota, going to Carolina. Do you care at all?
I actually do. For me, as crazy as that sounds, I do.
Wow.
I'm actually targeting Adam Thielen later in my drafts. I think that he looks the best that he's looked in years from what I've seen in this training camp. So for me, John, again, we're not talking like this is the guy I'm putting on, you know what I mean, that I'm putting on the face of my team. But this is a guy that I'm interested in potentially targeting super late round, ADP being 134, right receiver 54. Get him real late. Could be receiver one on the Carolina Panthers.
He could be. I don't know how valuable that role is. And like I said, my strategy drafting at 134, this is my flyer category. This is where I'm taking, I want to target guys like Sky Moore. and get a
Yeah.
little piece of that offense,
Justin
or a
Ross.
Zay Flowers or Justin Ross, or these are the Jonathan Mingo. I'd rather have Mingo than Adam Thielen. There's just more. You know what Adam Thielen is. I,
Yeah.
I just don't like a guy that long in the tooth that late in the draft. Speaking of, we got another one right here. Jacoby Myers leaving New England, PPR monster, and he's heading over to Las Vegas with the Raiders. I really think he's going to, with Darren Waller leaving, with Devontae Adams being there, you got the naked fucking mole rat still, but I think Jacoby Myers could make a play for the number 2 target on this
Could.
team. What do you think about that?
Yeah, totally could. Totally could, especially with Mac Hollins no longer there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to DJ Chark. DJ Chark leaving the Detroit Lions, and he's now with the Carolina Panthers as well. Do you see any value with DJ Chark at all with the Carolina Panthers?
I'm honestly, John, I'm not going to draft him. I'm not drafting him until I see something crazy. He's a nice little comfy, cozy blanket for Bryce Young. But from a fantasy perspective, this is a guy that you can pick up on waivers or something along those lines. To your point, I'm not really willing to take him. I would rather take a high flyer.
Yeah. All right, let's look at some of these other guys here. Just for your information, you'll probably see them on the waiver wire, but just know where they are. Paris Campbell, absolute burner. We haven't seen him on the field a ton. He's with the New York Giants now. Mecole Hardman left the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, and he's now with the Jets as well. They're just going to try to throw Aaron Rodgers some talent and see what he can do with it. Richie James now with the Kansas City Chiefs. Allen Robinson. Oh, God, this guy. You want to talk about
him.
Seriously, I don't want to see his name. He is dead to me. We were high on him, and he took an absolute shit with everything in front of him there for the taking. And fuck you, Allen Robinson. He's now with Pittsburgh. Oh, good. I get to hate him in Pittsburgh now. So that's wonderful. That works out really well. Robert Woods is now in Houston. Don't care at all about that. Robert Woods, it was great to see you catch passes. I'm sorry you're probably not going to this year. Marvin Jones Jr. in Detroit. Mac Hollins, who looks jacked as fuck. He's in Atlanta. Yeah, he's going to be playing with Drake London and Bijan Robinson.